Welcome back. I'm with this very attractive Welsh Gujarati magpie, Tishani Doshi, author of The Pleasure Seekers. Now, the magpie analogy we must explain, otherwise they'll think I'm being rude.
Well, I think I was saying that in context to the fact that I steal memories and I take them to line my nest to make things. I think for me, one of the things that I've been very interested in is the role of memory and imagination in the creative context, because I do think that memory plays a great role in the stuff that you create. And for me, certainly, it's not just my memories, but all the memories that I gather from other people, my parents, other people's parents, I just take all the good things, and I put it in my nest, and somewhere or the other I'll use it. So yeah,
So how
I am a magpie.
how forthcoming were your parents when you sort of tried to get information from them for the book?
Well, they were interesting because I think basically they work in different modes. My father loves to tell the same stories over and over again. So I'd have like 3 stories that I know because I've heard them millions of times. And then my mother, she sort of just gives me things like these throwaway memories, Suddenly she'll say something and I'd be like, oh, that's interesting, and I would take it. But it wasn't, nobody
not
really
like
in
you're
my
sitting and
family,
doing
nobody
it, yeah.
in my family ever sat me down on their knee and said, let me tell you a story about, And I think on some level I always wanted that, I wanted that grandparent who's going to, tell you all these stories about where you come from and this and that. And I felt like I missed that, and this is a way of making up my own history because I felt it was inadequate.
I must get Tishani to read from her poetry collection, Countries of the Body, which won the Forward Prize for the best first collection.
Yeah.
And she's written this gorgeous poem, but I'd like her to read because this magpie has a very nice voice. Yeah, it's called The Day We Went to the Sea.
Okay. The day we went to the sea. The day we went to the sea, mothers in Madras were miming the marina for missing children. Thatch flew in the sky, prisoners ran free, houses danced like danger in the wind. I saw a woman hold the tattered edge of the world in her hand, look past the temple, which was still standing as she was, miraculously whole in the debris of gaudy South Indian sun, when she moved her other hand across her brow in a single arcing sweep of grace. It was as if she alone could alter things, bring us to the wordless safety of our beds.
So you see, if that is beautiful, the book has a lot of that. So you really ought to read the book. Will you tell us a little bit about the creative writing program you did in America, and then your subsequent work experience in London, and how all that has shaped you into who you are?
The program I did, the creative writing program, was at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, and it was a 1-year master's. And I basically had decided, in college as an undergraduate that I wanted to be a poet, and I thought going to school might be one way of sort of figuring things out. So I applied and I got in, and I spent a very happy year in Baltimore, writing poems and teaching, which was actually the hardest part of it. I had to teach a course, which was terrifying. But
how did you get interested in poetry? Is it because mom is Welsh and poetry runs in their veins?
I don't know about that, but I think for me, sort of when I was in my junior year in college, I started reading a lot of contemporary poetry.
There's a lot of wonderful love in the book, love on many levels. There's also a lot of philosophy. It's a very wise vision that you have. So where does all that come from at such a young age?
I don't know how young you think I am, Manu, but
I know,
or
but we're not telling.
No, well, thank you. I think there is a sense of I have, while I was writing the book, reading a lot of philosophy books and this and that, but just from speaking to people, and don't forget, when I was sort of 26, my best friend was a 73-year-old. So I think when you are talking to people who are older than you and spending time in their company and with their friends, you hear about things, and it automatically, comes into your own consciousness. So I think that wisdom or that vision that you're talking about is just from having conversations with people whom I find interesting, and you know, those tend to be older people.
Now, getting the book published itself, how easy or difficult was that? What does it involve? I know you travel around the world
It's
a
such
lot.
a strange thing. It's sort of, when it happens, you think, of course, it was always going to happen. It feels so like, you know, natural that the book is here in this form. But actually, when I think about it, for 5 years I wrote without knowing whether anyone was going to be interested in publishing it. And that's quite terrifying when you think of all the time that you're spending on it. I think publishing is, you know, it's very interesting. In India, it's growing in a huge way, and I think more and more writers are being published than ever before, which is fantastic. But I do think that finding the right publisher, finding the right editor, it's a mixture of luck and so many things. And I feel very lucky to have, met my publisher and worked with her, because I do think they bring a lot to the book.
So you've been at you go to the Hay Festival every year, and Tishani shared a platform with Margaret Atwood and Seamus Heaney.
Yeah.
So do you think it helps also to go out and be there and do that?
I think it helps. I mean, I went to Hay many years as a sort of Hay groupie, you know, because I went as a journalist and I would go to the events and listen to the writers. And in a sense, I felt this is what I'm trying to do, and I just wanted to be a part of it. I think it is sort of exciting to feel plugged into some kind of fraternity, because as a writer, you know, like I said, you're working in isolation, and then when you meet real life writers, it's very exciting. And certainly my first Jaipur festival, I met a whole bunch of Indian writers, and it was, you know, we were a group. It was fantastic. And then you go away and you go back to your little corner of the world and work away, which is fine.
So are you going to be now focusing on poetry for a while? Is that your form of release, as it were?
No, I'm just working on the poems because that's what I happen to be working on, and I have sort of ideas for a novel, and I'm not at all sort of worried about how long it's going to take or when I'm going to start. I haven't started anything yet. For the moment, I'm very happy to stick with the poetry and be in that world, which is very contained.
Will you also do some journalistic pieces, you think?
Yes, I'm doing quite a bit of journalism, essays, and some interviews, and I do enjoy journalism. I think it keeps me on my toes because there's that deadline aspect, and it has a very different life. It's much quicker, and it's sort of gratifying to be involved with that as a writer.
And I think also it's a great exercise to be able to write in so many genres. The only thing you haven't written is a play, Tishani.
No, and I don't think I'll write a play anytime soon. It's a whole different, it's a very different way of looking at language.
It can't be that hard. You acted in a film.
Oh, let's not bring that up.
I saw that DVD recently.
Oh, really?
Michael Muthu of the Boardwalkers, I can't remember why he gave it to me, but I was looking at it and it's nice.
It was an experience.
Anyway, it's been lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Anu.
And I mean, if you don't believe me, believe Salman Rushdie and Louis de Bernier, who rave about the book. It's a really beautiful read. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Anu.
Thank you.